Your piano is out of tune. It's not broken, not badly maintained, out of tune on purpose, by an amount someone chose. So is every fixed pitch instrument built to the standard Western tuning, which is most of what you all record. And you don't need a tuner to hear it, you can count it. The error comes out of the speaker as beating, and beating is just a number of times per second. I try to run every number in this myself, and I try to write it down because I don't trust myself to remember them. And somewhere in the middle of doing that, I found a tuning preset that is named after the wrong person. It has been in your software the whole time, but I'll get to that later. And then I rendered every interval and measured what actually came out of the speaker instead of trusting the arithmetic. The two agree to within 100 of a hertz, so when I tell you a number later on, it is a number that I counted. Start with the only two intervals almost everyone agrees on, the octave, 2 to 1, and the fifth, 3 to 2. Stack 12 pure fifths. You overshoot 7 octaves, not by much, 23.5 cents. And a cent is 100th of a semitone, so this is about a quarter of the gap between two adjacent keys on a piano. But you overshoot and you cannot get rid of it. And that gap has a name, a comma, which basically just means a leftover too small to be a note and too big to ignore. The one you just watched fail to close is the Pythagorean comma, and it is the whole problem. It doesn't close. It has never closed. Every tuning system in this film is a different opinion about where to hide it. So one answer is to stop on one. Keep every fifth pure and let the gap fall wherever it lands. You get perfect fifths and you pay for them in thirds. A Pythagorean major third is 407.8 cents. A pure one is 386.3. That is 21.5 cents sharp. And here's what 21 cents sounds like. On a C, the fifth harmonic of the root and the fourth harmonic of the third are supposed to land on the same frequency. They miss, and you hear 16 beats a second. So the Renaissance made the opposite trade and called it meantone. Narrow the fifths you actually play in, spend the leftover there instead, and buy the third back. Flatten the fifth by a quarter of a comma, and something exact happens. Take 4 of those fifths, subtract 2 octaves, and you land on 386.3, 13714 cents. Now, work out a pure major third from scratch. A completely separate calculation. Same number, every digit all the way down. That is not a coincidence, and it is not approximately. It is what tuning is defined to do. The thirds are perfect. And then you play in the wrong key. The gap you have been pushing around the circle piles up in 1/5, and that fifth is 35 cents sharp. It beats 16 times a second. They called it the wolf. The 18th century answer was to stop trying to be fair, temper some fifths, leave others pure, and let every key be slightly different. In Valotti's arrangement, C major beats 4.5 times a second, and F sharp major beats 16. Same instrument, same player, nearly 4 times the roughness. Key color meant more than that to the people who wrote about it, but at least this part of it was arithmetic, and you could actually hear it. And now to the part that actually made me stop and go and find the actual book. Open a tuning menu in a synth or a sampler and you will often find a temperament called Valotti. The common version of it is not what Valotti wrote. Valotti's own text was printed in 1950 and it specified 1/5 D to A as the ratio 27:40. Take a pure fifth and divide it by that, and what is left over is 81/80. A different leftover. A slightly smaller comma, about 2 cents smaller. 2 cents is nothing on its own. It is the whole argument here. The common preset uses the other comma, the Pythagorean one. Barber attributes that construction to Thomas Young in 1800. And I should say plainly that not everyone agrees with me here. Claudio Di Veroli prints the Pythagorean version and calls it Valotti's. Murray Berber's 1951 survey is the standard English history of this subject. It describes Young's temperament on page 163. It doesn't mention Valotti anywhere in the book. And on that same page, Barber writes this about Young's tuning. If he had commenced his set of tempered fifths with F instead of C, the key of C would have been best. Start the chain on F, that is where Valotti starts his. Barber wrote out the arrangement and never connected it to the man. So, there are 2 commas in this story, and they come from different places. One is what 12 fifths overshoots 7 octaves by, 23.5 cents. The other is how far 4 fifths overshoot a pure third, 21.5. They sit 2 cents apart, which is under a 50th of a semitone, close enough to swap by accident, and far enough apart that swapping them changes which key on your instrument sounds best. So people swap them. The Valotti preset is one. Barber points out that Sorge, in 1748, never distinguished the two at all, which means Silberman's 1/6 temperament is 2 different temperaments depending on which one he meant. And Barber does it himself. Page 1 of his book calls the Pythagorean third a ditonic, sharp of the pure third. It is the symphonic, and his own glossary says so. I'm not trying to score points. That is the standard reference work written by a careful person, and the confusion still got in. It is the most slippery pair of numbers in music. Which brings me to the answer everyone actually uses. Stop choosing. Spread the gap across all 12 fifths equally, so every key is identical. And it is a good deal on fifths. An equal tempered fifth is under 2 cents narrow. On a C, it beats about 9 times every 10 seconds. In a mix, you will not go looking for it. The thirds are where you pay. An equal tempered major third is 14 cents sharp, and it beats 10 times a second. Same root, same instrument. The third is nearly 12 times rougher than the fifth. That is part of why an open fifth sounds clean and a close major third in the low mids turns to mud. Voicing and masking and the room are all in there too. But so is this, in every session, and nobody mentions it. And beating is in hertz, not in cents. So the same chord an octave up beats twice as fast. By the C, 2 octaves above middle C, that third is beating 41 times a second, which is no longer a wobble, it's simply roughness. So nobody solved it. Pythagoras kept the fifths and lost the thirds. Meantone kept the thirds and grew a wolf. The temperaments kept every key and made them all different. Equal temperament did not fix tuning. It spread the error evenly, so no key is out of tune and no key is in tune either. Every key is equally, slightly wrong. So here's the thing you can actually do with this. Next time a chord sounds thick and you reach for the EQ, count first. If you can hear wobble, you can count. That is two harmonics missing each other, and moving the voicing will fix it faster than a filter will. Open thirds up or move one of them an octave, and the beat rate halves or goes away. That is the trait of the recorded error is built on. Somebody chose it, and you can hear it in every session once you know what you're counting. The script that computes every figure in this film is in the description, and is short enough to read in one sitting. So enjoy, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you again soon.